Hello, guys. Welcome back to today's episode of Adulting But Not Really. Today's episode is going to be a little bit touched on mental health, but it's really interesting because I always touch on mental health in every single episode. Today's episode is going to be a little bit more towards journaling and prioritizing mental health and prioritizing taking care of yourself. I think it was like the second or third episode I've ever made that I went kind of in depth, but not really. It was just overall on self-love and how to take care of yourself. But in this one specifically, I'll kind of wanted to tackle mental health specifically because I have done an episode about anxiety, but I do want to do another one about anxiety because I think there's a lot of points that I didn't touch upon, and also deal with anxiety on not a daily basis anymore. I am so proud of myself. I don't really deal with anxiety on a daily basis anymore, but I do have certain situations that anxiety does come out, and I do have to bypass its little moments because it does happen, sadly, but it is a thing. So today's episode, I kind of want to do it revolving journaling, mental health, and kind of knowing when to take a step back for yourself. So yeah, I have been journaling for a couple of years now. I actually have a journal. Like, this camera is on top of my first journal ever that I bought. Well, no, I have a physical representation of the journals. So if you're watching physically, if you're watching on YouTube, you get to see. So basically, I have these two journals. It's really funny how I painted them. But I have these two journals that I bought. I think they're from Michaels. Michaels is like an art supply store in the US. So I think these are the Michael ones. So I have these two. They weren't supposed to be a journal. I bought them for literally drawing and painting, and the first 10 pages are just me doing doodles during COVID, during the lockdown in 2020. So I have these from 2020. And then I started journaling every night during 2020, or like almost every single night, because I was bored and I'm very structured with my days. During COVID, I had a specific timeline of what I was going to do with my days. I'm honestly so self-disciplined. I didn't let myself use technology until after lunchtime because I knew that if I did use technology all day, I was going to feel like shit at night. And if I put myself in that mindset of I'm going to be at home because it's lockdown, even though lockdown didn't really happen in Miami and in the US, lockdown wasn't really a thing. There's people in Miami that were walking around like it was just another day every single day. But my family and I stayed home for a good 2 months. I was at home every single day. The only time that I was at home was because I was in a drive-thru of Barnes & Noble's picking up a book. That was like the most physical human contact I had. But anyway, so I didn't let myself use any type of technology until after lunchtime. So I would be painting, drawing, hence the journal, and reading by the pool. I was lucky enough that I did COVID when I was in a house with a pool, so like my own family pool. So I would be by the pool reading almost every single day. And then after lunchtime, I would watch a movie, shows, TikTok, all that. And then I would FaceTime people. And then by nighttime, I would journal again about what I did that day. So that's how I kind of started off with journaling. I fell off of journaling after a while because I didn't really see a reason to keep doing it. I mean, my anxiety hadn't been that bad because during COVID, I barely had assignments. And then I basically stopped school starting March, and the little assignments that I had on Zoom, people hadn't figured out how it worked yet. So for a while I didn't even have anything to stress about because most of my anxiety came from school. I had to quit my job because my parents didn't let me go out of the house, so I ended up quitting Domino's. I was working at Domino's Pizza at the time. And then that summer I didn't do anything. We went to Tennessee to an Airbnb, just the family, like me and my parents and my brother, for like a week, and all I was doing was filming. I was doing a lot of YouTube stuff at the time because I was in my YouTube era. And yeah, so that was kind of what I was up to, and I didn't have any anxiety. Life was really chill. And the reason why I didn't have any anxiety, I think at the time, was because I was prioritizing me time all the time, every single day, like 24 hours a day, because all I would do was be at home, paint, reflect, read, any type of social. I would FaceTime my friends at night, but there was no academic stress. I was a sophomore in high school, so I didn't have the stress of SATs yet. I didn't have the stress of college apps, and I didn't have the stress of where I'm going to uni and all of that. So it was kind of a period in my life where everything was just chill. Everything was really slow. So I didn't really have anxiety. So there wasn't anything for me to really write about that was bad in a sense, or a reason for me to start wanting to work on myself, because I was constantly working on myself, but not in a I'm doing bad mentally, I'm bored, this is the only thing I can do type of way. Then junior year of high school came along, and no, junior year I didn't journal. Sorry, I'm getting messed up. Basically, on my way, I'm not gonna take it out because the camera's sitting on it, but on my way to the airport to go to, I went to Mexico for a week, and then I went to my Interrail, so around Europe for my graduation trip. So basically for graduation after high school, I went to Mexico for a week with my ex-boyfriend's family, and then I went to like so many countries in Europe with my best friends at the time. And I bought a journal on the way to the airport. It was super random. I was literally sitting in the car and I told my mom, can we stop by CVS? And I went to CVS, got the first notebook that I saw in CVS, and I bought a pen, and I was like, this is going to be to manage my expenses. Like, I don't even know why I didn't think, oh, let's do it on my notes app on my phone. But I was because I'd saved up with my own money from my jobs throughout high school for this specific Interrail trip. But I was so anxious about spending the money that I worked for in my Interrail around Europe that I wanted to make sure that I'd use it properly and that there was leftover so I could use for the first semester of uni in London, because I was going to London after that. So I was really, really specific with the way I was going to spend my money. So I thought, let me buy a journal. So on the trains between cities and countries, I could write down what I spent on, how much money I spent in each city, and like all of that. So basically, the whole purpose of me buying this journal was to literally write down like all of my expenses. And it turned out I used it for that, but also for quite the opposite. I started journaling for the thought of, I am going to write down everything that happened for memories. I'm a very emotional person, and I'm honestly so happy I am, because that means I cherish everything so well. I care a lot about people, and I care a lot about making memories with people and my loved ones, and I'm like to have memories of everything. I take pictures of everything, I take videos of everything. I like to record everything. So whenever something exciting happens in my life, my first thought is I need to write it down. If I don't have my journal with me, I write it down on my phone app, on like my notes app. I have so many random stories written down on my notes app, on a plane, bag after a trip, on something that like really amazing happened to me, and there's no other reason to it except I want to have the memory of it, and I want to be able to have those emotions again while reading it back, because the more fresh you write it, the more emotions you put into it. So then when I read it back, I can know exactly how I was feeling, because at that moment that I wrote it, I was still feeling those emotions. It's really, really fun, because I read back to the journal of the Europe trip, and there's specific things that I read about that happened in Amsterdam, specific things that happened in Vienna. I read about Croatia with such like excitement. You could tell that Dubrovnik was definitely my favorite part of the trip, because I wrote so much about it, and all I kept saying is, I love it here, I love it here, oh my god, it's wonderful, it's amazing. The excitement on those like pages, it's insane, and every single time I reread it, it makes me want to go back to Dubrovnik, because you can tell that I had such a great time. So yeah, and I started journaling basically off of just wanting to keep track of memories in life and what had happened to me and how I was feeling about it, because I wanted to, whenever I was going through something bad, look back to that journal and be like, but look how happy you were. That means that you can be happy. Like, it's not that I was depressed or anything, but it's like, if you were feeling like this once, and you were feeling bad during graduation, but then after graduation, look at this amazing trip that you had, and look how happy you were during this trip. You might be feeling sad now, but that feeling will come back again, just like it came back during that one time, So it's kind of a reassurance of life is great. Look at everything great that happened to you. So much more is yet to come that you can write down in the next journal. And I'm about to actually finish one of my favorite journals that I've ever bought, because it's so pretty. It's like all the way over there, so I'm not gonna go get it. But I bought it in Harrods. It's really expensive. It was like £50, but it's so big. It's lasted me fully a year, and I think it's gonna last me for another month based on how many pages are left. And I'm gonna have it for like a year and a month. And I've written so much on it. I kept journaling after the Europe trip in London, because I've talked about this in other episodes. I got severely I had depressive symptoms and I was really, really sad my first year of college. I didn't like London. I didn't like the environment. I wanted to be in Florida. Also, there were other external factors that were making me really anxious. I couldn't sleep at night. I would go home crying. I would wake up crying. There was just so much that was happening internally that I couldn't really appreciate. Plus, it was my first time ever experiencing winter, and I definitely got the winter blues. So I didn't want to go out. I was completely seeing at everything in such a negative light. I would count down the days, the hours, the minutes for me to go back home to my parents in Miami and everything and all my friends. And I hated being in college. And the sad reality is that you're in college for like 6 months of the year. And even after that, time passes by so fast and you have to go back to college. So everything just felt really stuck. And the only way that I would calm myself down and the only way that I could think things through before calling my parents, before calling the people that were hurting me, before like doing everything, was writing it all down. So I brought a journal and I just kept writing, and I kept writing, and every single night I would keep writing. And the one thing that I would say is that the thing that saved me and my anxiety, and the thing that has kept me checked, and even to this day, I was really anxious last week. Whenever I feel my anxiety really kicking in, obviously journaling is not just going to stop it, but it does cause that self-reflection, that self-awareness. Sometimes I realize that I'm in the wrong in situations. Sometimes I realize that I'm making this all up in my head, that anxiety does cause you to look at things much more intense than they are in real life, and it makes you think of situations much bigger. And writing it all down, specifically just letting your mind flow. There's different types of journaling. I haven't even got into that. There's different types of journaling. There's obviously the guided journal. There's a journal for goals. There's a journal for intentions. There's many things. I've never been able to be the person to write down every single morning, these are my intentions for the day, these are my goals for the day, these are my goals, da-da-da. Once a month, I sit down and I'm like, these are my goals for the month. It would be great if I accomplished them. This is how I think I can accomplish them. This is the steps that I think I should take. But if I don't accomplish it, that's okay. That's fine. It's no big deal. As long as I get there. As long as I put the intentions there, and as long as I try to work towards that, I'm okay with that. But on a daily basis, what I try to do, I'm also not too hard on myself if I don't journal one day. Like, there's been, when I was in Barcelona, I didn't journal for a week. But then the minute I got to Madrid, I journaled. And then the minute I got to London, I journaled every day. I've been journaling every day since I got here, September 6th, and we're in October 1st. So I've been journaling for like almost a month, just straight every single day. But it's not something that I wake up and I'm like, I have to journal today. It's like I sit down in the morning having my coffee and I'm like, I really feel like journaling what happened yesterday. I really feel like journaling my emotions today. Or I'll be sitting down in my bed right before going to sleep and I turn on my bed light and I'm like, I really want to journal about how I'm feeling about life lately. And it doesn't have to be me sitting down feeling sad, feeling anxious, feeling any negative thoughts. It can be, I'm happy today, or I'm calm. Nothing major happened. I wasn't extremely happy, but I wasn't extremely sad. It was just a normal, ordinary day. And I would write it down and I would journal it, and I'll start reflecting. There's things that I haven't really been as self-aware of that have been ticking my mind, and I would write them down and I would realize, I didn't know that this was actually affecting me more than I thought it was. If something's bothering me, something is making me sad, if something is causing too much space in my brain, I write it down and I let it flow. I'm the type of person that I don't even know what the name of it is more reflective journal. I would call it a reflective journal. I'm a reflective thinker. I like to just write it all down. Sometimes the sentences don't even make sense, to be honest. I go like, today was a great day, and then I start I don't know, my brain loses track of the words that I say most of the time in my journal. So I'll be talking about the weather, and then at some point I'm like, I like the color blue. But anyway, so this person said this today. I'm really hungry right now. And then I would keep going. It's the most random sentences ever. Sometimes I read back at them and they don't even make sense. But while writing it, I was already feeling so much better. So sometimes it's not even about writing down what happened that day. It's not even about writing down a process of thoughts. It's just about writing down and everything that comes to your head, every single word, every single thought, just writing it down on paper. Because while you're writing it down, you're processing a lot of things that you thought you wouldn't process. It's kind of like when you're talking to a friend about having a deep conversation with your best friend, and you realize a lot about life, and you realize a lot about how you've been feeling lately, because they start asking you questions and you start discussing events that have been happening lately, and you realize a lot. That happens a lot with my friends when I have deep conversations with them. It's the same thing, but you talking to yourself. It's having those conversations that you have with your best friends at night, really deep, but on a daily basis, but with yourself. It's becoming self-aware of your actions and how you're feeling, and realizing and maybe even processing something that's been happening to you before you even take course of action, so you understand the weight of your actions when you do respond to that situation, or what really happened, what's really triggering me to feel this way about someone. Is it a me problem? Is it a they problem? Is it me reading too much into it? Is it maybe something that it's not really there, but because I have previous emotions towards this person, I'm seeing it that way? It's, I think it saved me so much with my relationship with my friends, and my relationship with my loved ones, and my relationship with even like people that I work with in uni. Instead of letting out those frustrations in front of them and just letting it all out, I let it out on paper. I reflect on it. I realize what's been happening. And if I still feel so strongly about it, and I still think they hurt me or something's wrong, then I bring it up. But I bring it up with a clear head on what I feel and what I think it's coming from. So I think it's a really, really, really good habit to implement on your day-to-day life. And there's this myth that you have to write specific journal prompts every single day, and there's specific like I go on Pinterest and there's so many little pins of like different journal prompts, and I would hate to do that. Like, I'm sure there's people that enjoy it and they really do keep track of it and they love it and it works for them, but it just doesn't work for me. I can't do it that way. I would actually be disencouraged to journal every day if I did it that way. The reason why I've been journaling every single day is because I have my own free way of doing it, and there's no structured. It's all free. I can let my mind roll around and it just goes with the flow. And I generally think that is the single most important thing that I do for myself on a daily basis, apart from working out. Because going back to the whole topic of mental health, I generally think working out and not working out. See, my brain does this thing where I go through like random sentences. I generally think every single day you should do something for yourself. This is something that I once got told in therapy, and it didn't, like, it's such a silly sentence and it's such a silly concept, but it's so true, and not a lot of people prioritize that on their day-to-day life. Every day you should do something for yourself. It doesn't have to be something like journaling if you don't want to journal that day. I don't journal every single day sometimes. Like, yes, the past month I have, but when I'm traveling, I don't generally take out my journal every single night in front of my friends and I'm like, guys, alone time. Like, I'm gonna journal. No, I'm not gonna stop having a conversation with my friend before going to sleep because I want to journal. It's not like a strict rule that I have to journal every day, but there's certain things that I do for myself every day. I go to the gym, I go to Pilates, I go on a run, I journal. Sometimes I make myself my favorite meal. Sometimes I make myself special water. I don't know, I add lemon to my water lately sometimes, so I can make myself feel a little bit of happiness every day. Sometimes I take myself out on a walk, on a really long walk, and I drink, and I listen to some podcast. I've been really into listening to podcasts on my way to the gym, on Pilates, or on my runs. I've been listening to podcasts instead of music, which is so unlike me, but it has been happening. But yeah, or I read. If I read that day, I take that as self-care. If I go on a walk, I take that as self-care. If I go buy myself a book when I finish my other books, I take that as self-care. There are specific things that you can do for yourself on a daily basis, and they don't have to involve money. They can involve going on a walk in the park by yourself, or making yourself your favorite coffee, making yourself your favorite meal. I keep stuttering. Making yourself your favorite meal. Watching an hour of YouTube, of your favorite YouTube. But I think you should prioritize at least twice a week having self-reflection time. Whether it's journaling, whether it's you going on walks without headphones and just reflecting you and your thoughts, whether it's having a moment where you're just laying in bed staring at the ceiling and thinking about what's been going on in your life. Because it's so easy to get caught up on a daily routine with all the noise and everything going on in your life that you don't really sit down and silence all the noise and really think and reflect about the way you've been feeling. You don't have to be feeling bad to be able to do this. You can be perfectly fine. I would generally say right now there's nothing major going on in my life. It's pretty boring at the moment, I will say. Everything's too stable. And I still have moments where I sit down, I close my eyes, and I just reflect on how I'm feeling lately and reflect on how I'm doing and conversations I've had with people, and is there anyone that I haven't talked to in a while? Is there anyone that I should reach out to that I feel like maybe I want to see them, that I haven't seen them in a long time, because I haven't really reflected on who I've been hanging out with and who I haven't. Little things like that. I generally think it's really, really important to check up on how you're doing mentally, but prioritizing solo days is so important. And this sounds so hypocritical because I haven't done a solo day in so long and I've been craving one. I think Thursday I'm gonna have my solo day, although I have class. But apart from class, I think it'll be a full solo day. There's days that during my first year of uni, when I was going through it mentally and I just wasn't feeling my best, almost every day, but especially on Sundays, I would prioritize spending a full day by myself. I mean, going to the park in the morning. No, going to run, then coming back, making myself protein pancakes, because I was obsessed with like banana protein pancakes at the time. Then I would go on a long walk. I would take the tube and I would go to my favorite park in London, which was like 20 minutes in the tube. And then I would walk all of Regent's Park and go up to Primrose Hill and then read my book and listen to podcasts and just watch. There's so many people with dogs there, and I don't see dogs in my area in London, so that was like the only place that I could really, see dogs. So I would sit down and just watch dogs run with their owners and everyone walking and everyone having a conversation, just people watch and dog watch. And then read my book, listen to good music on my headphones. Then I would walk, grab a coffee, and sit down somewhere. Then I would go and grab food at Itsu, which is like a really cheap sushi to-go place. It's like £5 for like 3 rolls. It's so good. And then I would take it home and I would eat it watching my favorite show. And the sun would be out by like 4 p.m. during the winter. So by like 4 p.m. I would get home, I would eat my sushi, and for the rest of the day I would just kind of lay in bed and read and maybe call some friends. But that was a full solo day by myself, and it generally healed me. It generally made me feel so much better every single day. I feel like I got to know myself on a much deeper level. I got to really understand how I work. I got to really reflect on the way I react to things, the way I feel about things, the way I think, why I'm feeling sad, why I'm in a situation that I'm in, how can I improve. Also, Primrose Hill, so pretty. How can you not start to like London while overlooking its skyline and how beautiful and big it is? Although I will say Greenwich Park has the best views of the skyline in London. It's prettier than Primrose Hill, but it is farther from where I live. So I don't go as often, but it is a really, really pretty view, and I need to go this weekend now I think about it, because I do miss it. I haven't been there in so long. But yeah, so that is a wrap on today's episode. I don't want to make them too long. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I think this episode could be really, really helpful. I will say it's one of my most important ones, I would argue. And it's generally something that I preach almost on a daily basis, on how important it is to journal and how important it is to take care of your mental health and prioritize yourself and get to know yourself. And I think having good relationships with friends, romantic and family, and just anyone in life starts with the relationship you have with yourself and how you take care of yourself and your self-respect and your self-love. I think it's the most important thing to put that into perspective and to work on that before you prioritize anyone else. You have to be selfish in that area, because you can only be such a good friend and such a good partner, such a good family member if you treat yourself right and you have good mental health and you love yourself. I generally think you cannot love someone else unless you love yourself first. or at least you can't love someone right unless you love yourself correctly. Don't know if that makes sense, but I know there's a specific quote about this because my roommate Natalia literally told me that last night, and I forgot specifically how the quote goes, but I'll find it. But yeah, so thank you to I generally can't, my brain isn't working today. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next week.